In the distant reaches of the galaxy, a small, forgotten moon named Zither drifted silently in the cold void of space. Covered in jagged cliffs and deep caves, Zither had been home to a once thriving alien civilization. The Zithari, a race of intelligent, peaceful beings, had long since vanished, their society falling apart after a series of devastating wars. Now, only ruins remained, silent echoes of a time long past. Among the remnants of their once great civilization, one Zithari mother named Orya clung to life. She had been abandoned by her own people, left to wander the desolate surface of the moon with her two young children. The chaos and destruction that had ravaged her homeworld had torn her family apart. Her husband, a brave warrior, had perished in the final battle, and Orya had been forced to flee with her children into the dark, lonely caves of Zither, where they sought shelter from the harsh elements. Her children, Dala and Zren, were still too young to understand the severity of their situation. Dala, the elder of the two, had inherited her mother's bright green eyes and delicate features, while Zren, just a few years younger, shared his mother's dark skin and silver hair. The three of them were all that remained of their once proud family, trapped in a world that had no place for them. The alien race that had once thrived on Zither was now gone, and the ruins they had left behind were just reminders of how fleeting life could be. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Orya did everything she could to keep her children fed and safe. She hunted the wild creatures that roamed the barren planet, using her knowledge of the land and her race's advanced technology to survive. But as the days wore on, it became harder and harder to maintain hope. The lack of resources and the unrelenting isolation weighed heavily on her. She watched her children grow weaker, their faces gaunt with hunger and their eyes dull with despair. One day, as she ventured deep into the cave searching for food, Orya felt a presence, a strange, unfamiliar energy that pulsed through the air like a distant signal. She followed the sensation until she reached the mouth of a large cavern. There, to her astonishment, she saw a ship, human in design, crashed into the rocky surface. It had clearly been there for some time, its hull cracked and battered by the harsh conditions of the moon. Orya's heart raced. She had heard of the humans before, distant travelers who had passed through the galaxy on rare occasions. But this was the first time she had encountered one of their ships, and it seemed like a miracle. Perhaps this was her chance, a chance to ask for help, to save her children, and to rebuild the family that had been torn apart. But there was one thing that held her back. The humans were a proud, independent species, and Orya knew that asking for help might come at a steep price. Still, she had no choice. Her children were suffering, and she had nothing left to lose. With great effort, Orya climbed onto the ship, her heart pounding with anticipation. The interior was dark and cold, but she could still see the faint outline of a figure inside. As she approached, she saw the human, a man, young and strong, with dark hair and a rugged appearance. He looked up at her, surprised to see an alien standing in the doorway. "Who are you?" the man asked, his voice wary but calm. "What are you doing here?" Orya hesitated for a moment before speaking. She had never had to beg for anything in her life, but desperation had driven her to this point. "I am Orya," she said softly, her voice trembling. I am a mother, and I need your help." The man's eyes narrowed. "Help? What kind of help are you asking for?" "I ask for you to become a husband to me," she said, her words coming slowly, painfully, "and a father to my children. They have lost their father, and I am all they have left. We are alone, stranded on this moon, and I cannot survive without help. My children need you." The human seemed taken aback, unsure of what to say. I don't understand. You want me to marry you?" To take on the role of a father to your children? Orya nodded, her eyes filled with desperation. Yes, she whispered. I cannot protect them alone. We need someone to rebuild what has been lost. My people are gone. My husband is gone. And now I am asking you to take his place. Please. The man stood in silence for a long moment, studying Orya and the vulnerability that radiated from her. He had never been one to back away from a challenge, but this situation was unlike anything he had encountered before. He had come to Zither seeking shelter, not expecting to find an alien woman asking for such a personal request. Yet in her eyes, he saw the truth of her words, the deep pain of loss, the aching need for survival, and the love she had for her children. Finally, the man spoke. I'm not sure if I can do what you're asking. I'm not a father. I'm not ready for this kind of responsibility. But I can't leave you like this. Tears welled up in Orya's eyes as she bowed her head. I understand, she whispered. I only ask for your protection, to care for them as if they were your own. We need food, shelter, and warmth. I know you are a stranger to us, but you are the only hope we have left. The man looked at her for a long time, his thoughts racing. He had always been a solitary traveler, never one to settle down or take on the responsibility of a family. But something about Orya's plea resonated with him. The bond between mother and child, the desperation in her voice, it was universal, regardless of species. He couldn't ignore it. Finally, with a deep breath, he made his decision. I will help you. I will stay with you and your children. But I can't promise that I will be the perfect father or husband. I don't know how to do that. But I can offer you protection and safety, and I will help you survive. Orya's heart swelled with gratitude. She had no illusions about the difficulties ahead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a flicker of hope. Thank you, she whispered. You've given us a chance. That is all I ask. Over the following weeks, the man, whom Orya learned was named Caleb, became an integral part of their small family. He helped Orya gather food, rebuild their shelter, and protect them from the dangers of the moon. Though they were still isolated on the barren planet, Caleb's presence brought a sense of stability and security that Orya had not felt in years. As the months passed, Caleb grew closer to Orya and her children. He took on the role of protector, and though he still struggled with the idea of being a father, he did his best to care for Dala and Zren. Slowly, the bond between them deepened, and Orya's hope for a future began to take shape. She had found a new family, one built on the foundation of survival, trust, and love. In the end, Orya's plea had been answered, not in the way she had imagined, but in a way that had brought her hope and a new beginning. She had asked for a husband and father, and in return, she had found a partner in survival. It wasn't the life she had dreamed of, but it was one she could now share with her children. A life of love, rebuilding, and the possibility of a future that, for a moment, had seemed impossible.